Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 322 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one podcast in Canada, recorded November 8th, 2021. Tonight, it is me, Gavin. I will be your Andrew this evening, and we also have Pierre. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. A version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
We need your help to support the Canadian Patriot Podcast. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Show you're not a communist, buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com and follow the link on the right. Also, we are doing pre-orders for hoodies for CPP as well as Ragnarok Tactical. They're comfy. We've been trying them out. They're nice. Pre-order closes December 1st, so you can email us off the wall customizing, or if you've already put your info in on the polls section in the Discord, don't email as well as that. We'll get in touch. Right now, it's looking like it's going to be $65 a sweater, and shipping, we think we're going to do $15 flat rate and go from there. Nice. So yeah, if you've got anything, let us know.
Yeah, get your orders in early. And can confirm they are very, very comfortable.
Yes.
All right.
I enjoy them.
Well, everybody's favorite segment of the show, What Are We Drinking? Also known as Plausible Deniability. Pierre, what are you drinking this evening?
Just 40 Creek.
Straight up?
Just straight. I got no Pepsi. I'm gonna start cutting out the Pepsi a little bit. I've got a 6-month plan for a few things, so I was like, I'm gonna start cutting out some sugars and eating a bit better. So, but I'm not got no booze.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. You got to have principles. I'm drinking Signal Hill and Diet Pepsi. I am not worried about cutting out Pepsi. The sugars I've pretty much already cut out, although I need to cut them out a little bit more because I've been cheating a little bit lately, but that's a different story. Remind everybody about the Patriot Challenge. We're asking patrons to do 5 things every day: exercise for at least 45 minutes, practice a skill for at least 10 minutes, read a book for at least 15 minutes, drink at least 2 liters of water. That's regular water, no flavoring, no this, that, or anything else, just straight up water. Complete 1 task that will improve your life. You can get the templates off our website and post them on the show's list of medias. Tag your friends, tag your enemies, tag your parents. Just share it. Section 74 challenges are still ongoing. There's a GoFundMe link. Fighting the government in court is not cheap, so they need your help. Or if you want to get involved, you can email s74process@gmail.com. On to the news. We didn't talk about it last week, so we've got to make up for it this week. Got your weekly COVID update.
Oh, also, before I forget, for the pre-orders for the sweaters, the only color we're doing is black because the color scheme is very crappy. So, but black and white writing always seems nice. So before everybody thinks they can get a bunch of stuff, it's just going to be black sweaters for right now. Future, we never know. But yeah,
it was good enough for Henry Ford. It's good enough for us, right?
Why not?
All right. So your first story in the COVID update this week is up to 27,000 federal public servants missed deadline to affirm they are COVID vaccinated. So Trudeau had pushed out his mandate that all federal employees need to be vaccinated. They had a deadline. That deadline has come and gone, although it's not really the deadline because they actually have until November 15th. So a few more days to, I guess, supply their vaccination status. And if they are vaccinated, then they are good to go. If they are not vaccinated, they aren't really saying they're going to do something, but, you know, they may face unpaid suspensions. They won't be fired. They'll just be put on unpaid administrative leave indefinitely, it seems. But if they do manage to get their declaration in and get at least one dose of the COVID vaccine before then, they will have an additional 10 weeks until they go and get their second dose. At which case, then, if they don't meet that, then they will then maybe also perchance be put on some sort of unpaid administrative leave, potentially.
Aren't we going to be at third boosters by then?
Well, I'm sure we will be, but I mean, it seems that, the government is even having problem getting the people that are in the government on board with their plan of mandatory vaccinations, and I guess are sort of backing down. I mean, I guess it's time will tell if they actually back down or not, but it doesn't sound like they're being too difficult at the moment, because they're not saying you will absolutely be placed on administrative leave. They're saying that you might face unpaid leave, maybe. Yeah. But even then, if you get shot one, then you have another 10 weeks to go and get that. And I'm sure, yes, they will probably add in another stipulation at some point in time for dose 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 57, and then 382, and so on and so forth down the line. But yeah, approximately right now, 10% of the federal employees are unvaccinated.
Oh, that's good to know that we have 10% of competent people in the government.
Yeah.
Apparently not in power, but
yeah, they're somewhere in that. Yeah, I'm curious how many of those are actually in the Liberal Party or voted for the Liberals, just out of curiosity. But along the same lines here, BC postponed some surgeries due to shortages caused by unvaccinated workers. So of the 127,448 healthcare workers in the province, 2.6% are not vaccinated. So apparently some outlets have been running a similar story and citing 4,000 versus 3,325. So maybe slightly higher, so somewhere in and around maybe closer to 3%. But 5% of the ones that are not vaccinated are in the interior health, and 4% are in northern health. So just so that's all split. I mean, unless these guys are crazy shorthanded to begin with already, I mean, 2.6% is not a whole lot of people.
No, but I mean, at the same time, you need to look at what criteria they're talking about, right? Like, is it just if the one person is the one person that can do surgery, like heart surgery?
Oh yeah, if you're
hospital,
compared
to a nurse. Not saying that a nurse is not as important in all that factor, but like, yes, it sucks for all the other nurses and sucks for the patient that you might wait longer. But if the one guy that can do surgery is the one that's part of the non-vaxxed. Like, I don't know, like, I have a big issue with this healthcare, pushing the healthcare, like, you don't get a job if you don't get vaxxed. Like, they've been dealing with this since, like, how long now? We're at what, week 1.5 of the 2 weeks to flatten the curve?
So we're nearing the end of the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Somewhere around a week and a half.
So they've been dealing with this day in, day out, nonstop. I mean, unless there's a crazy amount of healthcare workers that, like, every 2 months get COVID, like, if I mean, knock on wood, I've been lucky enough. I haven't had a swab stuck up my nose. I haven't, nothing. If these people are taking all the precautions prior to this vaccine coming out, and not much has changed for them, right? The person that decided not to get vaccinated, if they didn't, if they haven't gotten COVID yet and they're still not getting COVID, why is this being forced upon them? Like they should, you'd think about it, if everybody having operations and 90% of everything other than people with, crazy issues, health issues, I guess you could say, they, they like people are getting stuff canceled, procedures canceled, not so much from hospitals or whatever, but I guess you could say elective surgeries, right? Oh, you don't get vaxxed, you don't get to come in. So, like, I have a big issue with this. Like, get fucked is what I got to say about it.
No, I agree with that. Quick comment on the YouTube here from Taxpayer Dave. Can I put on a fat suit and get jabbed in the fake skin fat? I don't want to give out legal advice on the show. But I would say, like, that's not a terrible idea. I mean, it might work. I guess it depends on how good of a nurse you have, whether they notice that it's a fat suit or whether it's real skin or not. But yeah, no, I understand. If these people were heroes 6 months ago, why are they getting fired now? And
why are they the devil now?
Yeah, and if you're in such a bad position that losing 2.6% of your staff causes you to have to stop doing stuff, even if it's just like minor elective surgery type stuff, maybe you shouldn't have policies in place that force people to do something. Also, if you have people in healthcare that are supposed to know about all of this stuff, and even they are reluctant to get the thing, or even maybe they got it and just don't want to declare.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an indication of some stuff that, like,
yeah. Right. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's just issues with it, right? Like, I mean, canceling elective surgeries now, my wife went for pretty much reconstructive knee surgery, not replacement, but a whole bunch of knee stuff. And that she had an appointment, let's say, 3-4 weeks prior to, COVID being a pandemic or whatever. And it got pushed off for like, 8-9 months before we went back. I mean, yeah, we lived close to Ottawa and we were worried we were going to have to go to Ottawa, but we ended up, the surgeon was doing it at like a small town hospital as well as that one. And yeah, she went, and yeah, it was the same thing, right? Like rolled up, like I couldn't walk in, and it was like pushed out the door, like here's your paperwork, right? So I mean, I'm more happy that they're canceling some surgeries, as long as they're not like life-threatening surgeries. Like, yeah, my wife needed surgery on her knee to get a bunch of stuff done, and it's like a 2-year recovery. But I'd be better off because they finally pushed her through, and it was kind of like, okay, you're awake, go to the bathroom, get the fuck out. Here's your paperwork. There wasn't, she had knee surgery prior to that. And it was like, hey, there was follow-up appointments, and this is how you do the physio. This is what you need to do. They just handed off paperwork and like kicked you the fuck out, So yeah. I'm kind of happy in that sense that they, as long as it's not a life-threatening surgery that someone needs before, because if they sneeze or look the wrong way or cough the wrong way that they die, but yes, it sucks having to deal with whatever, for example, my wife, knee pain, but that's better off than getting pushed through for something and, not getting the same proper care, or maybe not even care, but just the same kind of service that, someone would walk you through. I would go in and they'd say, okay, this is what you need to do to help out with the surgery, right? In 2 days, take the bandage off. You can't soak in the bathtub. Do this, do that. Here's the prescriptions. This, that. It was all like, just read the paperwork, and it was all over the place. It was crazy. So I'm kind of happy they're doing it that way, as long as it's not, something that someone needs right off the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, like, certainly there are some things that can be done more efficiently virtually and so on and so forth. But I mean, as someone that's going through having some minor things right now that I need to get appointments for, just as kind of general health and ongoing and all that stuff, right? It's kind of a pain in the ass for me to even get an appointment with my doctor and everything else. And then like
Yeah.
my father has some more in-depth stuff going on because he's, a lot older. And like it's a real pain in the ass to deal with that, because like, he's at the point where somebody needs to kind of go with him to the appointments because he doesn't remember all the things that the doctor tells him. But we can't go with him. So it's easy when he does it via the phone because we can sit next to him and listen. But when he actually has to go for the appointment, which is like the more serious ones, and that he usually ends up having to wait for weeks and weeks to get the appointments, and nobody seems to be in any sort of a hurry to do anything. It's just really annoying. And it's like, if you're in this situation where you need to see a doctor about something, because it's like, we need to figure out what this thing is so that we can get you the right treatment and all of that, then that needs to get done quickly. And get them in, get them out. No problem with that, right?
Yeah.
But you need to get in there and do that. And if we're already having this, crazy shortage of staff, firing them isn't going to help with that. But I guess, Ontario is taking a slightly different route than BC. Doug Ford has refused to make COVID-19 vaccines mandatory for Ontario hospital workers. He said that the small number of COVID-19 outbreaks in Ontario hospitals is not worth enforcing a provincial vaccine policy. 6 of Ontario's 141 hospitals are currently experiencing a COVID-19 outbreak. I'm not sure how many.
Toronto.
Probably, that would be my guess as well. Health Minister Christine Elliott took questions from reporters after Ford's announcement, and she said that while this is the right decision for right now, the province is open to reevaluating if more outbreaks occur. Now, I'm not sure how many outbreaks we've had like across the province to begin with already. It doesn't seem like we've had too many of them. Like I know that like the Mississauga postal plant has had a couple, and then the Amazon plant I think had one, and there's been a few other little pockets, but like what exactly are they considering an outbreak, right? Like if 2 or 3 people all catch it in the same place from the same person, is that an outbreak? Or are we talking like 50 people all got it from the same person at the same place at the same time?
Right, like COVID's been around. How many ICUs have been full with people? And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking on healthcare workers right now. They've been dealing with a lot since the beginning. And at the end of the day, like, hey, it sucks, but like you chose to go in that field, and this is a very unlikely possibility that this probably could have been part of what happened when you were in the field, but like, you kind of signed up for it.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. Like when you're a cop or a firefighter and you decided that that's what you wanted to do and you sign up, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, the bad guys are shooting at me, or like, whoa, I actually have to go into that burning building and put the fire out. I demand a pay raise or special treatment. No, that's part of the job. Like,
so
it sucks.
It's just now if they want to push this so hard, like, which is probably why we're not politicians, but I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to kind of look at like, okay, let's look into, since the beginning of COVID, flu shot / vaccine that they're calling it, what was the case count of, healthcare workers being in hospitals, and how many of them, them being not so much people that have infected people, but the people that have dealt with people in ICUs, the COVID wards that they built in all these hospitals. How many of those people have been, brought it home to a family member or just to themselves, whether they have family, they live by themselves, whatever. Give me some statistics on, those specific scenarios that, prior to this fake vaccine, You know, how
Yeah,
many
how
of
many?
the healthcare workers, you know,
Yeah,
has it, how many of them is it effective? You know, if, you know,
what? Yeah, and how
90% of
many?
them, okay, fine. You know, you might have an argument for this, but I mean, can still get it
Yeah,
having this shot. So I still got an
well,
issue with that.
and
But
yeah, and how many, like, how many outbreaks are caused? Yeah, by healthcare workers themselves getting it and passing it on to people. And then what was the average of that, like going back to before, in the before times with not COVID, but like the flu or literally anything else? Is it on par with that? Is it better? Is it worse? Like, let's see some statistics so we can compare what, what's the actual risk of healthcare workers bringing anything home?
yeah, right. So I mean, yeah, right. I mean, last year, right, at the beginning of, you know, the
Yeah.
first week of the flatten the curve thing, you know, like nobody had the flu, right? I didn't hear any advertising for get your flu shot, this, that, like
No,
it
no,
just disappeared
the
completely.
corona killed the flu.
Yeah,
That
right.
is one
And
thing that
then
it did. Yeah.
yeah, that's the one thing that the good thing that came out of it. But at the same time, right? Like, aren't we still using the same test that can't tell the difference between the
Yeah.
flu, a cold, and the COVIDs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So
So
yeah.
how many
So
of these cases, you know, positive just cases in general, right? Some of these articles, I think the BC one, which I already closed off, but I think they said they had what, almost 300,000 COVID cases. I guess they just kept a
yeah,
whole count of the whole
yeah.
thing,
They haven't
right? Like,
reset the thing, even though it's been over a week. They haven't they haven't reset the
yeah,
counter. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
you know, there's a, you know, 200 cases this week to bring the total case count to 300,000. I was like, yeah,
in
no, I
two
got, you know,
years.
which,
Yeah,
yeah,
in two
right,
two
which,
years.
okay, so give me the data. How many flu cases did you get prior to COVID? Right, I got a
Yeah.
feeling it was a lot more than that.
But
I don't know about deaths, right? I'm
but
hoping it was lower, right? Like, unfortunately, it has happened that some people can pass away from this, and
yeah,
it is what
and
it
it's
is. But
but those, I think those people would have, if they had gotten anything. It happened to be one of those things where this kind
yep,
of came out of nowhere, and
yep,
yeah, it got the people that were vulnerable. Um,
yep,
the thing that worries me about this is that, to me, this reeks of a political move. So, Ford is saying that, like, well, I'm not going to make it mandatory, and then the health
he's leaving.
minister is like,
He's
well, yeah, this is the right decision for right now. And we know that there's an Ontario election coming at some point soonish. I
yeah,
mean, the attack ads have already started on all sides and everything. So,
yep,
like, they're politicking right now. So this is his way of not pissing people off, but still
yep,
also letting them do certain things. Because, like, they're saying that they'll reevaluate if more outbreaks occur, which I'm sure they'll do after an election. And the health minister's even saying, that, like, if they were to implement mandatory vaccine policies, there would be significant job losses. So that looks bad going into an election. And at least then, like, if they go into an election and, you know, Ford doesn't do this, because, there are some places that are going to do this anyways. They don't need it to be law, but 120 out of the 141 hospitals agree to a mandatory vaccine policy, which means that they will likely go about doing it all on their own. So then when they fire the employees, Ford can wash his hands of the whole thing.
yeah, right, yeah, because Ford kind of said, hey, I'm not going to make it mandatory. It's up to
Yeah,
the
so
hospital,
he's
right?
not
You
the
guys
bad
decide
guy.
for yourselves.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not the bad guy. The hospitals are the bad guy. And, still vote for me because I didn't do this. And
right.
then you've got
So I'm
the yeah, go ahead.
I'm just I know I'm just hoping one of those 21 hospitals are somewhere close to me, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm gonna go there to make
Yeah,
my
if I can
mandatory.
choose where I
Yeah,
go, yeah, I'm
yeah,
gonna go
right. I'm gonna
there.
make my mandatory theft dollars
Yeah,
go there, right?
yeah. Yeah, then
You
you can
it's
see,
just
like, so,
ridiculous.
liberal leader Stephen Del Duca has made some comments on this, that this decision means Ford has chosen anti-vaxxers over cancer patients. He's putting our most vulnerable patients in harm's way because he's scared that the conservative anti-vax community won't support his re-election otherwise. DeLuca said in the tweet, he should be ashamed. NDP leader Andrea Horwath also said Ford is catering to anti-vaxxers by making this decision. Unvaccinated staff should not be allowed in the ICU, in pediatric wards with sick babies, in the homes of vulnerable home care patients, or anywhere at all in the healthcare or in our children's schools. And then the Ontario Hospital Association has also expressed their disappointment over Ford's announcement, saying that the province can't afford to let its guard down. There's a strong consensus among Ontario hospitals for a provincial policy requiring healthcare workers to be fully vaccinated. And according to this, they are already required to be vaccinated against 17 different conditions, including measles, rubella, tuberculosis, and that COVID should not be treated any differently.
See, but until you come up with a shot that's an actual vaccine for the, you know, just like those 17 other different vaccination, right? I got my measles shots. I'll never get measles. I got my tuberculosis, you know, like that's until you come out with a proven tested thing for that. No, this is no different than, you know, those flu shots. Flu shots were optional, right? And that's literally what this is. You're saying, oh, well, you've agreed to take these 17 other shots of some sort to prevent, you know, diseases and, you know, measles, mumps, all that stuff. Well, I've got those. My daughter has them.
Absolutely.
My wife has them, you know. But like this is just like, yeah, no, I'm gonna hopefully wait it out, and then I'm gonna take some really cool fucking houses when everybody turns into zombies.
Yeah. That, and just to correct something that taxpayer Dave here is saying, it's not anti-mRNA, it's anti-experimental vaccines, both mRNA and traditional, because the AstraZeneca one is not mRNA, but it does cause a whole bunch of problems like blood clots and everything else. So, you know, like, and again, like if in future they have a mRNA vaccine that's been tested and, you know, over several years amongst people that are consenting and don't really have any other choice, so they do the whole thing, I'm good with it. Like, and especially if it's a voluntary thing, man, you want to put whatever into your body that's voluntary, you go right ahead. Not my problem. You know, I don't want to pay for it.
Was it the measles or mumps? I think it was one of those. It took 10 years to develop the vaccine for it.
You know, and
I mean, don't get me wrong, technology has come a long fucking way since then.
It has, but we've also over the years fucked up a lot of vaccines.
No.
So we've put extra stuff in place, and you know, like everyone's like, oh, it's the government. Trust, like, look into all of the things that the government did, and I mean, a bunch of these are American, but like, I can't imagine that our government is any better than theirs. But like that whole like syphilis experiment that they did for years and years and years in the U.S. and all kinds of other stuff that they've done. I imagine our government is just as bad. They just haven't been caught for it, or they helped the Americans do it because it was easier to get away with it down there. You know, like, you know,
which I mean, you think about it, they'd probably have an easier time here in Canada. For all,
but like, why would we take something that's not been proven? That's my problem. So yeah, like I was just saying, like, I'm not against vaccines. I think for the most part that vaccines are good and that you should voluntarily take them because the risk of bad things is so much lower than the potential for harmful things, as is the case with like fucking polio or measles or mumps and all that stuff.
I think it was the polio vaccine. It took 10 years, actually. Yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was that one that took like 10 years. And now
would suck.
Yeah, and technology has advanced drastically since the like. I can't even think of the time that the polio vaccine came out, but I'm sure it's been a long time. And technology has advanced like there's no fucking tomorrow from that.
So we can be a lot better at it and doing things faster and everything else. So if they were to say, hey, we've managed to come up with this traditional vaccine in a shorter period of time, Great, but you now have a thing that's never been done before, and somehow yet they've still managed to do it in a way that's faster than we've ever done it
Yeah.
before.
Right?
So, yeah,
Like,
I
hey,
don't know.
we jabbed people, and like a month later, they're still living, approved,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
So
Yeah,
yeah, that's the problem with the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, the fact that healthcare workers that should be more knowledgeable than the average person when it comes to this stuff don't want to take it should make you start to question things. That's
yeah.
all I'm saying. Some good news though, students in Ontario will not require the COVID-19 vaccine to attend school. So
See, now I'm curious about this because I was thinking about going back to school to be an electrician. Does it only apply to like, you know, is that my scapegoat?
I think they're talking about public school, not higher levels of learning. College, university, and private education centers, I think, are doing whatever they're
Oh,
doing. Because I
so
was,
not the stuff that like I got to pay more than my mandatory theft.
yeah, no, unfortunately, yeah, because I was downtown in the shithole of Toronto recently, and I passed by a local college, and they had a big sign out front saying that this is where you have to enter to go and take your test and stuff like that. So like they weren't requiring people to do it, but you are going to have to test. Other colleges and universities, I think, have made it mandatory. So it really depends on where you're going and what you're doing. But for public school, it seems,
Yeah.
at least for now, you will not need to do that. So they will not be adding the COVID-19 vaccine to the list of immunization students are required to have to attend school. But the province's top doctor says he'll be exercising caution when it comes to lifting public health measures in schools.
Yeah.
They say that
Well,
the province will look at the trends and the ongoing threat of COVID-19. If the virus is an ongoing threat, they will review the integration of COVID-19 vaccination status into law. So if things continue to go bad or something, after an election, of course, they will look at things again and maybe change their mind then.
yeah. All this election, we just went through one, and now we're thinking like, you know, we live in Ontario. I don't know what, you know, I'm sure listeners don't, but it's just like, you know, looking at how bad everybody is just, well, not how bad everybody wants to shit all over the bed, and then how bad Doug Ford shit all over the bed. I'm like I won't even get the option of like someone buying me a beer before they violate me. It's crazy.
Well,
Absolutely crazy.
yeah, and oddly enough, in an article that's supposed to be about students and vaccines, they start mentioning a whole bunch of other stuff about Ontario. So Ontario's health minister says a plan is coming next week about third COVID-19 vaccine doses for residents. Our health minister said on Twitter Friday that the plan will involve timing for third shots with information for all Ontarians. Her comments came after the National Advisory Committee on Immunization issued new guidelines to provinces and territories about who should be eligible for boosters. The committee now recommends third shots for people fully vaccinated with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, people over 70, frontline workers, and people from Indigenous communities. So if you got the AstraZeneca one, apparently that is the shittiest one of all of the things so far. So you need to get topped up with something else, but we don't offer that one anymore. So it's going to be an mRNA vaccine. If you're old, somehow apparently if you're native, you're also more susceptible to this. I'm not sure how that works. That sounds kind of racist to me, unless they can show that there's some sort of genetic thing in there that makes them more susceptible than anyone else. Also, more stats in the article. Ontario is reporting 419 new COVID-19 cases and no, I repeat, no new deaths from the virus. The case numbers are based on 29,592 completed tests You say that 279 cases are in people not fully vaccinated with unknown vaccination status. 140 cases are in fully vaccinated people. I repeat again, 140 of the 419 are in fully vaccinated people. There are 130 people in intensive care with COVID-related critical illness, including 89 people on ventilators. Again, though, COVID-related means that they likely had some other stuff going on and that just got compounded by the COVID. So that's me reading into stuff, but I'd say that that's probably accurate.
Yeah, so no, I just did some quick math as we were talking. 34% of those 419 cases are people that are fully vaccinated, right? And the term fully vaccinated for how they advertise in
for now
is, right? No, but I mean, it's 14 days past your second jab, right? So if I got let's say I did the gate test and I did one shot a few months ago and I got a shot 10 days ago and I got COVID, right? I'm one of
you would not be considered.
Yeah, I would not be considered fully vaccinated. It's 14 days after your second.
Roughly a third of the people are fully vaccinated, and yet they are still hospitalized in some, or at least testing positive. It doesn't break down if any of those serious hospitalizations are people that are fully vaccinated or not. I would be curious to see that as well, just to see if that trend continues, because I imagine if a third of the people there are fully vaccinated, then that trend should continue roughly across the thing.
So out of those almost 30,000 people that they've, based on that completed test, we're at less than 0.002% confirmed positive.
Yeah. So that's basically been the case all along. It's been, less than 0.01% or something like that from the beginning that have actually tested positive. And then of that, less than 0.01% of those people have died. Again, for those that have, super tragic, and I don't want to say that there aren't people affected by it, but again, statistically, and statistics are the only thing that matters, because fuck your feelings. You have to do that. You can't make rules and regulations on the feels. It has to be on hard data that's looked at objectively. So yeah, a third of the people currently positive for the coronavirus are fully vaccinated. Fully vaccinated being 14 days past your second dose. Fully vaccinated may very well change in the future to some other definition, but
as of 9:39 p.m. on the States, that is the definition.
Yeah, that is the definition.
Yeah.
All right, on to some other news here. There was a man shot in a police incident in what is it? Out near Simcoe area, I think it was. Where's the name? Port something or other here. Sorry, I got to pull up the article.
I'm doing the same now.
Yeah, I've got my notes, but I didn't write down where it was. Norfolk gunsmith Roger Katanko of Port Ryers.
Yeah,
or west of Port Dover. Yeah. So, the OPP and Toronto Police Service executed a firearms search on the residence of a gunsmith. For the record, Toronto is roughly 142 kilometers away from where this gentleman lives, and the search was conducted.
With them.
Yeah. The Special Investigations Unit spokesperson said that the interaction involved members of the Toronto Police Service, and that the Norfolk OPP were not involved. So they were on the scene, but the shooting had nothing to do with them. One of the neighbors that lives a couple of doors down from them said that they've known each other for years and years and years, and that they shot a gunsmith. You have to put that in there. He has guns because he's a gunsmith. He had a customer with him too.
Yep.
That's what he's always done. He was a gunsmith. He kept to himself. He was harmless. And everybody else that seems to have known this man and lived near him and everything said that, you know, he was super sweet, friendly, you know, no threat to nobody. Yet somehow, for some strange reason, the Toronto Police Service felt the need to drive 142 kilometers away to do a firearms search on a gunsmith.
They're trying to boost their numbers for gun seized. The guy probably had like 20 people lined up for repairs. Hey, look, we got 20 guns off the street. Yeah, no, that's just crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to know why. Like, what made them think that they, or maybe not why, but like, what was the reasoning for executing a search warrant for firearms? Like, especially since this guy was a gunsmith for, a lot of people were saying, you know, long guns and handguns. The guy was a whiz, right? Towards the end of the article, one person was just like, you know, that guy's teaching me anything and everything. And the guy was, you know, pretty much handing out work compared to what everybody paid. Like, the guy was unbelievable. So I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you still need a restricted license even though you have your gunsmith papers, you still need a restricted to work on pistols, don't you?
Yeah. So
does the gunsmith papers give you kind of leeway on some of those?
No. So if you work in a gun store or a gunsmith, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you actually, like, if you only have your non-restricted, then you can only work on non-restricted items. If you get your restricted license, then you would be able to work on those, and then you would have to apply for an FBL and do all the things, and then you'd actually get a prohibited license depending on how you apply and what class of FBL you get, firearms business license being FBL. Then you'd be able to work on like anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, he would still need that. So I mean, and I get how, and I'm not saying that this is what the guy did, you know, but if he had, or somebody else or whatever had sold something to a guy in Toronto that wasn't supposed to have been, and that's how Toronto got involved, then I could see them, you know, passing the information along to somebody else in a different police department and going along with them just to say, like, what's up, and seeing how this all goes, because it relates to something that they're doing and they may need the evidence to close their case. But like,
Yeah,
they went to a gunsmith for a thing, and then like, this whole thing seems ridiculous. And I guess there's not a lot of information coming out about this right now.
no,
Because it is under investigation, so they've kind of probably kept everything super, super quiet. But like, nothing about this makes any sense. You know, they went, a 70-year-old man that's a gunsmith, they're doing some sort of a search, and Toronto Police Department is there, and then they shoot him while he has a customer with him.
what was the search warrant for? Were they looking for like 20 kilos of coke? Like, you know, what's your reasoning?
Yeah.
It was, Jeff mentioned in the live chat, like, you know, the article said that he's actually done a lot of like, the article we're talking about, that'll be in the show notes, says like, yeah, he's actually been a gunsmith for some of these OPP officers.
Yeah, and he's trained some of the other gunsmiths in the area that work for other businesses or themselves and everything. And just to quickly go back to a Christian constitutionalist, what is the Everman's non-restricted fighting rifle right now in Canada? Not really going to talk about that right now, but you can go back to some of our older episodes where we do talk about that. I can't do the interning right now to tell you what episode, but if you flick through them all, I think we did an episode kind of specifically on that. So go check that out. But anything semi-auto magazine fed, but it's probably going to be in some sort of a pistol caliber carbine. But back to the gun.
No, you can still get a few. If you've got
Yeah,
some
there's
coin.
some other ones, but they're expensive. Although all the good ones are. Yeah.
Well, you can get an SKS and get a chassis for it and make it magazine fed, right?
Yeah.
You can. I mean, you're still looking at $1,200 probably at the end of the day. So I mean, still might not be cheap, but some of those other options can be like 2,000. Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, pistol caliber or nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Nothing about this story makes any sense, and I'm sure that we'll be following it as it goes and as more information comes out. I mean, it'll be interesting to see why Toronto was there and why they shot him. Like,
yeah, I'm curious what they executed the firearms, like a search.
Yeah,
like,
I'm just
what was the
curious.
reasoning?
Like, the guy as a gunsmith is allowed to own whatever it is that he's got. So I mean, the only real reason is that, like, I don't even know.
And the guy was what, 70?
Yeah.
Like,
ridiculous.
There's something off with this whole thing, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, on to the next one. Veterans Affairs staff overwhelmed by number of vets assigned to them. So, yeah, I mean, we've been saying it for forever. I mean, we need to look after these people, but I guess, they're asking for more than we can give right now, according to our fearless leader. But
Yes.
This past June, Marie Paul Doucette was asked if she felt she had enough time to help Lionel Desmond in the months leading up to January 3rd, 2017, the evening the Afghan war vet shot and killed his wife, daughter, and mother before turning the gun on himself. The question came near the end of the 2 days of testimony before the Nova Scotia inquiry examining the circumstances surrounding the tragic event. Throughout, Doucette had laid out that many challenges she faced as a case manager at Veterans Affairs Canada in particular, had shared a long-standing source of frustration and concern for veterans and their advocates, an issue Toronto has repeatedly promised and even now failed to address the sheer number of veterans assigned to case managers. So, the Liberal government, once upon a time, in one of the elections, I believe the first one around, has promised all kinds of stuff. I mean, they've broken many, 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 many promises, and a lot of them to do with the veterans. But this is one of them that they've really, really fucked up. So back, in 2015, the Liberals promised case managers would not be assigned more than 25 ill and injured veterans. The pledge came after deep cuts by the Harper Conservative government and had seen the ratio skyrocket to as high as 40 veterans to one caseworker. So the Liberals have doubled the number of case managers, but Veterans Affairs say that they still, on average, have 33 veterans assigned to each of their caseworkers. And that number can actually even go up to 50.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot to deal with.
Yeah, so there are a fraction of caseworkers that have 25 or fewer veterans assigned to them, but the majority had more than 35, and yes, some up to 50, which is ridiculous. So during the whole inquiry, they asked, Could the caseworker have been more proactive in dealing with this particular gentleman's problems? And they're like, yes, we absolutely could have, if they had 10 people that they were dealing with. But when you have 50 people, it's a little bit hard, because these case managers help veterans with severe disabilities develop plans for their successful re-entry into civilian life after veterans leave the military for medical reasons. They are responsible for coordinating the different medical and financial resources needed for the transition. So in 2018, a parliamentary committee found veterans without case managers had a harder time understanding what support is available. So when you're in the military, not that I was, but I know a bunch of people that were, they take care of everything. You know, you need to see a doctor, you need to see this or that and everything else. It's all done through them. And it's very simple in that way. When you become a civilian, you get out, you're so used to them handling all of the things that now you don't know how to handle all of the things, especially if you happen to have some more complicated or severe medical issues that are going on and require, you know, the financial support to buy things for that, or, you know, get in touch with specialists and everything else. So these case managers are the ones that are there to help these people connect the dots, put them in touch with the right people and everything else. So some require a heck of a lot more work than others. But when you have 50 of these people in your care at one time, that can definitely be overwhelming and be very difficult for you to give all of them the appropriate care that is needed. You know, and seeing as these people have risked their life and limbs to, you know, protect the country and do all that, and we're promised these things, we should be doing a much, much, much better job. So another
they've been
another internal review released in 2019 found case managers spent more time filling out paperwork than helping veterans directly. The same report found most veterans saw significant improvements in their physical and mental health when they had case managers. I mean,
then isn't there one person that was waiting like 6 months for a new case manager?
Yeah, so the particular gentleman that they kind of reference in the article that, you know, ultimately ended up killing his family and himself as a result of, you know, his mental problems. From the time that he asked to have a case manager, which is ridiculous that he had to ask to have one, it was 6 months until they were assigned to him. So that's a 6-month period where this guy was not able to talk to anybody to get the help that he needed. And then when he does finally get somebody, that person has very little time to give to this person because they have all these other people that they are juggling as well.
Right. We have no problems, you know, if they sign up for the military, they sign on that dotted line. If we decide, hey, you're gonna go somewhere where you can get blown up, you know, deal with stuff that many of us are, you know, fortunate to never see, think about, you know, other than watching a movie and thinking it's all fake, right? And then they come back and dealing with that for say 6 months, you know, and then coming back and I can't do this anymore. Like, how do you get back to, you know, as they say, the civilian life, right? Like, yeah, I'm sure, you know, I know of people that can count on like one hand how many times they've had a good night's sleep since Bosnia. And how many years ago was that? Right? It's just, yeah, it's just crazy that, you know, we do that, you know, we require them to not ask any questions and listen and go do something. And then when they come back and they say, hey, look, you asked me to do all this and I need some help now.
Yeah.
And we give them a fucking hard time. Like it's
disgusting.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and
It
like I said, like,
is.
you know, these people have, you know, sacrificed great and small, and, you know, haven't had to worry about a whole lot of stuff because it was just taken care of for them, because that's part of the deal. So like if they, you know, were a single individual and they've been in the military for a long time, I mean, they have room and board and everything looked after for them, right? Didn't have to worry about anything. And now, you know, they're dealing with whatever physical and mental limitations that they've got as a result of doing the job. And now they have to figure out how to do literally everything. And then the people that we assign to them, and it's been proven that having these people assigned to them and having these people have the time to actually work with them is beneficial to them. But nah, we can't be bothered to have enough people to do all of that.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
On to other things that don't make any sense. Seems to be the trend. Ontario announces plan for Staycation Tax Credit, and here's how it works. So in another bid for your votes for a pending election, the Ontario government has announced its plan for a Staycation Tax Credit. Anyone planning a getaway within the province in the 2022 tax year could be eligible under the new Ontario Staycation Tax Credit program. The program was announced as part of the Ford government's fall economic statement, which was tabled Thursday. Ontarians would get a 20% personal income tax credit on eligible accommodation between January 1st and December 31st, up to a maximum of $1,000 for an individual and $2,000 for a family, for a maximum credit of $200 or $400 respectively. Ontario residents could apply for this refundable credit when they file their 2022 personal tax returns and benefit, even if they do not owe any tax.
Okay, so where are you going? I mean, it's been a while since I've stayed somewhere, but like if I want to go on a staycation, I mean, like, is it only your accommodations? Like, is it only your hotel you can write off? Not anything else you do on your staycation at this point?
Well, here you go. According to the government, an eligible accommodation expense would have to be for a stay of less than a month in an eligible accommodation such as a hotel, motel, resort, lodge, bed and breakfast establishment, cottage, or campground in Ontario, for a stay between January 1st and December 31st of 2022, incurred for leisure, paid by the Ontario tax filer, their spouse or common law partner, or their eligible child, as set out on a detailed receipt, not reimbursed to the tax filer, their spouse or common law partner, or their eligible child by any person, including by a friend or an employer, also subject to goods and service tax, harmonized sales tax, as set out on the detailed receipt. So you're allowed to go out and stay basically anywhere that's a legitimate stay. So it's not quite a staycation, it's a stay within the province vacation, but whatever, staycation. It's kind of a little bit easier to say. But you still have to go and spend the money. So you have to have the money to begin with, and then you get to pay up to $1,000 or $2,000, of which you will get $200 back in a tax credit.
So if I go and spend $2,000 and I get a $400 deduction on it, I'm still at $1,600.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll have to go out, and to get the 400, it's you and the wife will have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I figured it out. Now I know why they can't balance a fucking goddamn budget.
Yeah. The government said this tax credit will help the tourism and hospitality sectors recover and encourage Ontarians to explore the province. The credit would provide an estimated 270 million to support over 1.5 million families to further discover Ontario, the government said. So I'm going to read this quote first, and then I'll get into it. Ontario NDP leader Andrea Horwath said Thursday that she believes the staycation credit won't help families, and says it should have been a full $1,000 refund on costs spent on a vacation in the province. I mean, I'm half agreeing with the NDP. I also agree that this won't help families.
Yeah. But I mean, if this is already going to cost 270 million and we're only doing a 10% discount, like, right? If we want to give them 110%,
yeah.
How much is that?
If you have $800 to go on vacation, you have $1,000 to go on vacation. Like, the people that have the money to go on vacation, I don't think are going to need the $200 back. And if you've got enough money to take your whole family on vacation, I don't think that the $400 is going to make or break the trip.
Right. And this could be different, right? Like, say, it'd be different if you could apply for like a grant right off the get-go, you know, like you get paid like a month later. But like, no, you gotta wait till.
Yeah, you gotta wait till the end of the year.
You gotta wait. Yeah, when you file your taxes, not even the end of the year, right? So you gotta wait till like what, March, end of February, March, right? Yeah. To for $400.
Yeah.
You know, if I spend $2,000
you're not even going to get cash money back. It's going to be a tax credit. So if you owe them money at the end of the year, even though you've paid your taxes throughout, you'll just owe them slightly less money.
And if they give you the $200 back, right, it's just money they already took from you. Yeah. Right? But you also had to spend $2,000
exactly
to get that $200 back,
yeah,
or $400 back. Sorry,
like with the cost of everything.
Worst banker ever.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the other stuff that's going on, right? So like they're already saying like $15 an hour minimum wage and everything else. So like all of this is happening all at the same time. So most of these places probably have a bunch of employees that are close to minimum wage. So by jacking the minimum wage up, the cost of staying in a place is going to go up and everything else. So like,
so this is like a one-night stay in Toronto.
Basically, yeah. Like and you know, on $1,000, you're going to get $200. So if you look to stay, you know, most places, and I travel a lot for work, like even like a shitty motel is like $100 a night.
Yeah.
Somewhere half decent is going to be like 150, 200 or more. So you're going to get like a couple of nights at a hotel. It's not going to pay for your gas to get there or whatever transportation you need to get there. It's not going to pay for your meals or any other entertainment stuff that you may or may not be able to do based on, you know, vaccination status and or lockdown restrictions and or anything else. Yeah. Just to get there and stay somewhere for a few days is going to cost you $1,000, right? Like you go away for a long weekend, there's $1,000 in accommodation expenses just right there, and you'll get a $200 tax credit. Yeah, the people that can afford to do that,
$1,000. You have to spend an extra $1,000 to go eat, to get there, to get back, right? So you're
people that have the money to go on vacation don't give a shit about your $200. Take your $200 and shove it up your ass. That's
right. Just it's great. I want to know how they came up with this math. This is gonna cost, you know, $270 million to support 1.5 million families to further discover Ontario. Like, how do they know how many of these people are going to be like, yeah, this seems like a good idea, I'm going to go spend $2,000 to get $200 back? Like, no, I'm gonna.
I mean, I certainly am not on board with the NDP version of like you spend $1,000, you get $1,000, because like then who isn't going to spend that money, right?
No, yeah, but
Like-
at the same time, right? So they're only talking, right, for your stay. So say I go down to Toronto, or yeah, that's pretty much the only butthole in Ontario. So you go down to Toronto, right, and I spend $1,000, but I know I'm getting $1,000 back, right? So I book a hotel for 3 nights.
You
It
get a
cost me
place
$1,000
you get a place that's got a kitchenette, and you just make your own food that you've already bought that you'd be
Yeah.
eating anyways, right? Like,
Right? But even if you decide to go out to a restaurant or whatever, you are bumping up a little bit of that economy and
oh, for sure.
that tourism thing. So, yeah, the government's paying for me to go down and spend some money, but if I want to go down to Toronto and I want to do a nice weekend 3-night stay with the wife and my daughter and the family or whatever, right? It's gonna cost me $2,000. But if I know I'm gonna get $1,000 back, right? You might be more inclined to take that trip.
Agreed.
Than, yeah.
And the people that are on that cusp absolutely would be more inclined to do that. But like that would also make like if it's already going to be, you're giving out a maximum of $200 a person or $400 for a family. If they're already saying like 270 million, imagine if they're like, no, you get the full grand back.
That's what I was saying. Like that's why I was like, if that's the math, and Henry Horvath is just like, no, if you were in charge, you get the full grand back. I'm like, but
that's going to encourage a lot more people to go do something. And like,
right.
And they'll find like cottage or whatever and bring their own food, because like the cost of that's not going to be any more than if you're eating at home anyways. And so now we're going to be handing out $1,000 to like literally everybody, because they would all do it. Like I would go, I'm going camping for a week, and here's my $1,000.
Sure. Right, but at the end of the day, right, the government is giving you back the money, but you are bringing that revenue to that person that owns 20 cottages on the lakes.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So it does help businesses, but at the same time, it kind of fucks everybody because it's government. But
it potentially could help people go away. Like if they were to give the full 1,000, I think it would help people go away. The problem is that I don't think that's just going to bankrupt the province if we did that. And the other way,
oh, for sure,
the other way isn't going to encourage people that aren't traveling anyways. This is the problem, right?
Yeah. No, also, I don't agree, but
Chris's comment: you're seriously considering coming to Toronto, Pierre? Think again, reconsider.
Yeah, well, I kind of, what? Actually, funny
Chris,
enough,
he's going to come down and hang out with us, and we'll go shoot guns and everything. So we won't really be in Toronto. We'll be like on the outskirts of the shithole, not right in the shithole.
Don't worry.
We may like take a day trip in for a couple of hours just to show them how terrible it is.
Oh, trust me, I've been there enough. I've been there.
A reminder every now and again.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't been down there pre-COVID. Actually, before that, I was down there for like a month straight. I'd like come home for weekends and just straight back down. But yeah, no. So funny enough, actually, speaking of that, I met Ian, right, out of this podcast, me living close to Ottawa, right? Yeah. I think I'd meet you guys in the GTA area way before I met Ian, who lives in BC. But yeah, no, he came down. He had an overnight out in Ottawa, so I ended up going to see him last week right before the show. So yeah, but yeah, that's why I would go down to Toronto, is just to meet people, but not for any tourism. No. Don't worry. I'm not gonna go hang out at Finch and Yonge Street or whatever.
Get shot, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what these government people do when they come out with these programs, because this like it doesn't help anybody. Like the people that can afford to go on vacation are still going to go on vacation.
Yeah.
The ones that can't aren't, and giving them $200 in a tax credit like a year later isn't. It's just the stupidest thing ever. These people are dumb.
It is. Right? Like, and a lot of people might not want to, right? Like, so at the beginning of COVID, right, I worked for a giant corporation of some sort. And, you weren't allowed to travel and all that stuff. And the company I work for, deals with products that can improve your house and outsides and a bunch of stuff like that. And like, yeah, I'll be honest, man, that was a record-breaking year for sales. Right? And one of the reasons was like, people that normally spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, taking their family down to Cuba and renting a villa and everything, right? They were told you're not allowed to leave. So they, renovated the kitchen, or they turned their backyard into a little area because everybody was stuck at home at the beginning of COVID. So now everybody has these really nice places that, I don't know, they don't want to go anywhere. Right? Like, no, I dumped $8,000 in my backyard. Do you think I'm going to spend $1,000, $2,000 to get $400 back? Like, no, I'm still paying for the $8,000 I put in my backyard. Like, yeah, it's just fucking stupid.
Yeah. Well, remind everybody about book club. November's book coming up is a handbook for right-wing youth. If you haven't started it already, you're probably not going to finish it. It is a bit of a slog to get through. Yeah, so maybe get started on December's book, which is a lot smaller. December's book is Small Unit Leader's Guide to Counterinsurgency, the official U.S. Marine Corps manual. And then January's book, the True North Tradecraft Disaster Preparedness Guide, a primer on urban and suburban disaster preparedness by Boris, who was on the show last week. All the things to remind people about. We're on the Discord, so hop on the Discord. I'm on there infrequently. Some of the other panelists are on there on either better or worse schedules than me. Pierre, where can everybody find your amazing tax shelter? Legitimate company?
Yeah, off the wall customizing at gmail.com. I know we're on Instagram. I think there's Facebook. There's Clapper, which I think I need a prescription for, and a bunch of.
No, isn't that thing that turns your lights on and off?
Maybe something like that. But yeah, no, my wife does a lot of the social media things. I don't. But yes, we're on a bunch of stuff. Find us. Have any questions? You need anything? Email. Find us on one of the communist spy social media things.
No, and if you are on the gram, your better half and my better half did a live not too long ago, because you guys were very nice and sent a shirt for both of us and some other stuff, and they rambled on about God knows what for 45 minutes. I'm sorry I didn't listen to the whole thing because I was at work. But no, seriously,
I know. Actually, funny enough, I was at the shop. I was at my shop that day. We got Wi-Fi there because like company phone, they get a little picky about the data. And I was just like, yeah, she was like, oh, look, we got something. And then there was like a propane stove, right? Like, stay tuned. I'm going to make it live. And like, I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, buddy, I was like, she's got water boiling on propane. I was like, it doesn't take 15 minutes to make a fucking live here. Like, her tea's made. Like, yeah, and it was, I stuck around for a little bit and everything. And then, after I left, she called me and she was like, yeah, we were on for like 45 minutes. I was like, what'd you guys talk about?
Everything, I believe, is, they talked about everything.
Yeah. Yes.
But no, if you need some custom shirts and everything else, go check them out. Or if you need a Ragnarok or a CPP hoodie, really comfortable, send them an email or on the Discord, hop on. Also, because Andrew's not here, I will plug it for him. RagnarokTactical.ca. For all of your medical and tactical needs, you can use the code Patriot, or you could use the code Gavin10. Either works. They get you the same discount, but one lets them know you listened to the show. The other one lets them know that I sent you. We do have our much talked about and much attended map and compass class coming up. You can see the details on the website for that and sign up. It's a good time. Learn some skills that may become relevant at some point in the future. Apparently, we value your opinion, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. a version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes and all of those things. And as usual, apologies to Rod. He couldn't be here this evening. Signals got crossed and everything else. You know, he's on West Coast time. We're not. He'll be on one day. Until then.